So in this video, I'm going to talk to you about politics. And this is the politics of business. I have had clients sometimes turn around to me and say, oh, no, we don't have politics in our organization. But I can assure you that every single organization does have politics. Now, on this very first slide, I do refer you to an HBR article on power and politics in organizational life. It's actually a very, very powerful article, and if you get the time, I would really encourage you to read it, because it does talk about the role of politics in an organization, the way in which power is distributed in an organization, and how to harness that particular power. On the next slide, I show you, again, a little bit of a framework here around organizational politics, where we talk about the woods, the weeds, the high ground, and the rocks. This basically is just a four-box diagram that shows you where political activity takes place, whether at the individual level or the organizational level, and where that source of power is, whether it's informal or it's formal. It's important to understand the difference between informal and formal power. Formal power is very much about within the organization, the hierarchy of the organization. But informal power is quite often where power actually resides in an organization. The person who might have been there the longest, who may not be the most senior person, but who actually understands better exactly what's going on in the organization. So again, understanding these two elements of where political activity takes place and the source of power is really, really important as well. The next slide I want to talk to you about how do you manage politics in an organization? And four key elements to that. The first is very much about being socially aware, socially astute, reading the situation, being able to understand what's going on right now. Really critical to be able to read what's happening in an organization. What are the different influences at play here? And the second thing then is talking about those influences and being flexible in yourself in the way in which you behave and the strategies that you follow. You're going to have to do different things to get different people on board with your particular idea. The third then is your networking ability, your ability to network across the organization, finding those sources of formal power as well as informal power, being able to work right across the organization and quite often through the depth of the organization too, in understanding the way in which that organization might work. And then the fourth key thing to be thinking about here is sincerity, genuineness. Because if you're not sincere, if you're not genuine, people will see through you very quickly indeed. So it's really important that when you're starting to try and get a message across, a solution across, a recommendation that you want everybody to come on board with, that you are genuine in saying, this is the best thing for the organization. I've gone and proved that it is the best thing, that I'm sincere in the way that I'm communicating that. So when you're coming up with these recommendations, being able to communicate them, understanding the politics of the organization is so very critical. So the next thing I want to talk to you about is how you manage with power, understanding where the power exists and how you then use that power to help you in terms of getting messages across. Identify who's got the power. Talk to the individual who's got the power. Get them on side with you. Ask them to then be using their networks to encourage their networks and get their networks on side with you as well. Quite often when you're looking at a project, you're looking at the recommendations coming out of that particular project, you're then presenting, say, to a board, you'll recognize that certain people in that board are absolutely with you and certain people are perhaps questioning why we're going down this particular route. So how do you use then the people who are with you to talk to the people who might be on that fence, to encourage them to come along with you in terms of those recommendations? Understanding the positions of those individuals and then being able to use the people who can help you here is absolutely what managing with power is all about. So let's recognize too, on the next slide, the political reality of the boardroom. There are people in the boardroom who will take different points of view. So let's understand what those different points of view are, why might they have some concerns, why might they have some issues. How are you then going to answer those? Where can you get power from, and how do you then use those sources of power, what I've just been talking about? You need to be able to develop some of those situations, develop those sources of power to be able to help you as you communicate. And then understand the strategies and tactics of using power and working out what is likely to be the most effective way of being able to get your messages across. So as I said right at the beginning, Politics does exist. It exists in any organization. It exists at multiple levels of the organization. It exists in boardrooms of the organization. Understanding the politics, the power within the boardroom, or whatever else it is that you're communicating within the organization is so critical in helping you to get across the messages that you want to. You can have a great solution, you can have a great recommendation, but you've got to take people on a journey with you to make sure that that solution is recognized and that recommendation is implemented. So use politics to help you to make sure that that does actually get implemented.